maisha yangu yote Baba, nisaidie, nisaidie na masomo yangu Baba, nisaidie.
Welcome to the Amazing Lunch, which is a annual event here at TAB, which is normally held in the dining room. And as you can see, we would normally have you here, but alas, we do not, out of an abundance of caution. I'm Dave Streit with Joyce Pipert and Marcia Robinson. We're going to be talking about the Umoja partnership, with whom TAB has had a long-standing relationship for many years, and we're glad to do that. Just a year ago, we were in Kenya before the pandemic hit, and we'll be sharing some of our adventures and what we saw. And later on, John Gable will be with us to talk about how you can become involved in Umoja Partnership. And Executive Director Denise Soltis will also be here to tell us what's been going on in the last 12 months during the pandemic. But first, Joyce is going to introduce a special guest.
Okay. Shauna Hubbard is a member of the Board of Directors and serves as Secretary and member of the Executive Committee. She has been involved with Umoja since fall of 2017. She brings her marketing and communication skills from Corteva Agriscience to the project. Shauna will share a presentation that she developed to show the success of the Umoja project and where we hope to grow. Let's watch.
Glad to be here today to share with you more information about our 2021 and beyond strategic acceleration plan for the Umoja partnership. I want to touch on who we are and the Umoja partnership team, and a little bit about how we got where we are today. Most importantly, I want to share with you how we are looking to accelerate our strategic plan in the upcoming year so we can do more, bigger, faster within the Umoja project. We work in the Chilembo area of Western Kenya, and while it may look a little bit different geographically speaking and socioeconomically speaking, we've got a lot in common with our brothers and sisters there. Key is that our partners in Kenya have the same desire that we do to see a better world for their kids with more opportunities in the future. Our friends in Kenya have been challenged in 2020, just like we have, not only with economic slowdown, but also an extended period of time where our kids have not been in school. Our staff has been very engaged with our students and the communities during this time, but the extra challenges as we come out of the COVID-19 pandemic is why we wanted to spend some time today talking with you about our strategic plan acceleration. Our goal as the Umoja partnership is to transform communities one child at a time. And we have a great team of folks that comes together on 2 different continents to support these kids. Our goal is to remove barriers for students to help them stay in school and excel in school. As we think about moving forward in 2021 and what we will do to accelerate our strategic plan, it's really about leaning in to who we are as the Umoja partnership. It means that we're going to do more within our 4 strategic areas: school services, food security, infrastructure, and support services and empowerment programs. As we do that, I think it's important to know that there's a large network of folks in both Indiana and Kenya who really strive to support 4,000 students who are part of the Umoja partnership. On both sides, we have partner congregations, we have a network of donors, we have a board of directors, and a community that's really involved to provide cohesive support. We have an executive director on the U.S. side and 4 paid staff in Kenya. And if you've ever had a chance to encounter our staff, you know that they know every one of our 4,000 students by name. Our partner congregations and donor networks on both sides have provided faithful and generous support for the Umoja partnership. Our organization started providing school lunches in 10 primary schools, and today we've built upon that to grow to a food security program in 20 primary schools. We've added empowerment programs. You might have heard of our Get Up and Bed Up programs, which really focus on mentoring students and helping them with career preparedness, health and personal hygiene, as well as interpersonal relationships. We've also expanded in the area of support services, everything from tuition assistance to blankets to sanitary supplies for our girls to solar lamps. Sometimes we take things for granted here. You don't know the power of having light at night for students to be able to study. So even something that seems small to us, like a solar lamp, makes a big difference in the lives of these students as we strive to keep them in school and doing their very best in school. You can see we have a pretty large list of congregational partners on the Kenyan side, and these folks really come around our students and support them in their spiritual growth journey. Our job as a network of volunteers and donors and partner congregations on the U.S. side is to do our part to remove opportunity and material barriers for our students, and that's where we focus on our areas of programming. With such a large network of supporters, we focus on 3 program areas to help our kids stay in school and excel in school. Our strategic plan will enable us to continue to build in these areas: food security, empowerment, and school services. We're in the middle of a 5-year plan right now, and the great news is we're within reaching distance of several of the goals and metrics that we set in our 5-year plan. But that doesn't mean that we stop here. You can see how we've built in each program area to support these students in a smart and sustainable way. When a student enters the Umoja project, we make a commitment to them to see them through their time in school. And it's with generous support from our donor network and our partner congregations that has been made possible for 4,000 students. As we talk about our areas of programming, know that where we've expanded so far and our ideas for expansion in the near future come directly from our Kenyan partners. Our staff, teachers, guardians, and volunteers over in Kenya are the ones that drive forward the priorities of how we can help our students. That close connection is what makes Umoja different and makes Umoja successful and sustainable for our students. Our goal is to make a lasting, sustainable impact on the community where we're operating in Kenya. We can do more according to our strategic plan and building on our strategic plan in a number of different areas. Whether you've been around our project for many years providing faithful support, or you're hearing about it for the first time today, question for you: which of our program areas connects best with what you are most interested in? We've got opportunities in each one of our programming areas where we are looking to do more within our strategic plan. Maybe you are most interested in food security. This is the heart of our project where we first started out in 10 primary schools, and it's still a huge focus for us today. We've expanded into 20 primary schools, but we want to expand into more. In fact, we receive dozens of applications and letters each year asking for more primary schools to become part of the Umoja family. We have opportunities to sponsor a single school or to sponsor a package of programs for a school if you're interested in partnering with us in that area. Another critical area of food security is emergency assistance. This has been a critical area for our team in 2020 as we provided assistance not only to our students, but also to their households through emergency distributions. We're looking for a partner to help restock and shore up our emergency assistance funds. Maybe you're most passionate about our empowerment programs. If you've been around the Umoja project for long, I know you know about Get Up and Bet Up, our girls and boys empowerment program. In these programs, we focus on mentoring, career readiness, and interpersonal skill development, as well as health and personal hygiene. And we've seen fantastic results with students being more confident, more empowered, with more productive personal relationships, and doing better in the classroom. We're looking for partners to make sure that Get Up and Bet Up are funded as we go into the future. One other area that we want to invest is more staff and guardian training. Our guardians are such an important part of the network of support for our students. Guardians are often extended family members, many times grandparents, or other community members who take our students in. Remember, many of our Umoja students have lost one or both parents to AIDS or other causes. We find the more that we invest in our guardians, as well as our staff in Kenya, the better results that we get for our kids. You may be most interested in our school services programming. We are passionate about education and believe that it's key to changing the lives of the students in our program as well as their whole communities. We are looking for partners to help us expand the availability of secondary school or high school scholarships for our students. We want to make sure that every one of our students who is eligible for secondary school is enabled to pursue that. As well, we want to put more focus on post-secondary education, university or other education opportunities to help our students make the transition from secondary school into the workforce. In addition to tuition assistance, other support services are critical to help our students excel in school. Umoja provides items like blankets, sanitary supplies for our girls, school supplies, school uniforms, and even solar lamps to remove some of those barriers of basic necessities that might hold our kids back from staying focused on their schoolwork. We're looking for partners to help make sure that we're fully stocked and fully funded with those basic necessity items. Lastly, you may have a heart for the infrastructure of the Umoja partnership. This is so critical for us as we continue to expand our services, both the number of students that we serve as well as the depth of programming that we bring to them. We are looking for partners to help us expand our access to physical space in Kenya. We've outgrown our space right now, and we just need more room to conduct counseling sessions as well as to hold meetings. We're looking for a partner to help enable us to do that. We also are very mindful of our staff. Again, if you've met our staff, you know the heart that they have for our students in Kenya and the care that they take to make sure that we do everything we can to make those students successful. As we expand our base of students, the number of schools that we operate in, and the amount of programming that we bring, it's critical that we enable staff on both the Kenyan side and the U.S. side to keep everything running smoothly, and very importantly, to have that personal touch for every one of our students. So as you hear about how we want to accelerate our strategic plan in 2021 and beyond, which areas connect with you? Is it food security? Empowerment programs, school services, infrastructure? There are so many opportunities that we have to make a difference in the lives of our kids. As you see our students and think about global impact, as you think about living generously, as you think about walking humbly with our neighbors and living lives of faith as Jesus taught us, how might you partner with the Umoja Project to help our students? We can do more, bigger, faster, in a smart, sustainable way with your generous support. So for every passion that you might have, for every budget amount that you might be able to contribute, for every way that you can help make a difference, there's an opportunity for you. We thank you so much for your faithful support and your continued excitement about the Umoja partnership. With your help, we can do exactly what Umoja is designed to do: transform communities one child at a time.
So it's been about a year since we've been back. Why did you decide to go to Kenya, or how did you become involved with the Umoja partnership?
Well, I learned about the Umoja partnership at an amazing lunch. Not a virtual one like this, but when we actually sat down and had lunch, all we knew was that we were invited to come for lunch after church and learn about the project. And as it turned out, lunch was a rather small bowl of beans and a grain, and that was so symbolic because we learned that that represented the kind of lunch that the students in the program have every day. And such a small thing makes such a huge change and impact in their lives. So a year or two later, when the opportunity to go with a church group on the trip presented itself, it was a time in my life that I could do something like that, and I just went, kind of not knowing what I was getting into, but turned out to be a trip of a lifetime.
I felt similarly that I didn't really know what I was going to get into. I had done traveling as a college student to many foreign countries, but never to Africa. So I was interested in getting back to traveling and having some new experiences, new exposure. And this trip had a component that, like you, as a dietitian, was really near and dear to my heart. Not only educating the children, but providing them nutritional lunches. And that was very appealing to me as well.
Let's talk a little bit more about the feeding and nutritional aspect and how that relates to good schooling and just a good life. You're both nutritionists. Maybe one of you can, or both of you can speak to that.
We know that children have to have good nutrition to be able to focus and concentrate when they're at school. And if they don't have that, they just can't be their best to learn, not only while they're at school, but also at home. So the Umoja project gives them lunch, and sometimes they even are offering them food to take home after school for their families. Emoja provides not only that lunch for them, but also a reading light, blankets. Emoja really looks out for the whole child and the whole family. So, but nutrition is a huge part of it, and nutrition was a part of why children and the parents want that to be a part of the program. It makes a difference, and they know it.
And Umoja helps to remove the barriers and the obstacles to children attending school regularly. And one of the biggest obstacles is hunger. They get very little to eat at home and can attend school all day on an empty stomach, and so consequently have poor attendance, don't perform well. But by giving them lunch every day, that improves all of those variables and keeps children in school so that they can successfully make their way through the years in the program.
Let's talk about our trip. You've had a year to look back on it. How was it? What impressed you? Any experiences? How you've been changed? I'll start with Joyce.
Okay. I was very moved by how sincere the guardians, whether it was a grandparent or a relative or a sibling, was very touching, memorable, striking, every word in the book. They're just a grateful people, and the gratitude people express to us and to their teachers, it was something so remarkable.
Do you remember any conversations that you had, or?
I remember a conversation going on a home visit and meeting grandparents specifically, and they were very, very appreciative that we chose to go to their home and that we were with their child. And I felt like, thank you for inviting us to come to your home. You are doing me a great service to allow me to be here. And appreciation of the grandparents for what they perceived Umoja giving their grandchild a future. And so many of the grandparents seem to have such a strong feeling of the future of Kenya being in their child. That these are the people who are carrying our country forward. So trying to do the very best by them.
I agree. I think they made us feel so comfortable. The welcoming and the hospitality they showed us was incredible. And that in spite of our cultural differences, we basically all want the same thing. We want the best for our kids. We want them to be healthy, and we want them to be well educated. And the families and the community support, not just the the child's guardian or whoever they were living with, but the whole community seemed to be supportive of this program and so grateful. The gratitude was expressed nonstop by everyone.
One of the things that impressed me and I loved was meeting the Kenyan staff, Leonard and Linda and Jerry, and then the project assistants, many of them who were graduates of the program have come back to help. The teachers in the Girls Empowerment, Boys Empowerment program, they were also coming back to give back to what Umoja had done for them. It's run by Kenyans. There's a board here, and there's a lot of support coming from the U.S., but a lot of the programming, the ideas are Kenyan-born and Kenyan executed, and that's a great model.
Right.
I really appreciate it.
I feel like it's one of those situations where we help them help themselves.
One thing I was impressed with was the spirituality of the country. The gospel is there. The gospel is in at least the areas we visited in Western Kenya. We all visited churches and worshipped, and it's not like they need someone to go and preach the gospel.
Right.
It's already there. But something more exciting was happening for me, and I was reminded of Jesus' words, his prayer at the end of the Gospel of John, that they may all be one. Here was an example of the gospel in action, where two disparate communities come together for a beautiful purpose. And to me, that was just as powerful as anyone going in and preaching, which we heard plenty of. The prayers that were said at the schools, the songs that the students were singing. Everywhere we went, there was.
Well, you can't help but be inspired by their faith with the obstacles and hardships they face. Yet they're so determined and motivated to persevere and achieve their goals.
It's beautiful. Anything surprise you while you were there? That you had expectations that?
I think I knew Kenya was a poor country, but I was really surprised at how minimal their homes were. I think that the home we were building for a family, that was luxurious compared to the homes I saw on the home visits. They were just 2 rooms, no lighting, maybe a natural light cutout for a window, and they were coming apart. These mud homes were coming apart. They were not watertight.
If you could take away 1 or 2 images, what do you keep going back to? You think about the trip, and what images come up?
I always remember the smiles, the children's smiles, the brightest, most pleasant, happiest smiles, despite everything.
The positivity. There was a strong positivity of the guardians, parents, teachers at the schools.
It's infectious, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I had the advantage of looking at the footage over and over again, and I had the advantage of looking at the images over and over again, and the one image that keeps coming back to me, that I keep glomming onto as I go through the footage, was during one of the home visits. We visited Rooney. Rooney was in 5th grade, and is a good student, and Umoja had given him a nice uniform and a blanket and a lamp. And Rooney lived with his a grandparent. He had no mother and father, and some other relatives. So I'm sitting there recording the interaction, and we're welcomed into their home, and I noticed Rooney's shoes. And Rooney's shoes had no business being on anyone's feet. The back was off of one of them. The shoes barely matched. I know the shoelaces didn't match. They didn't fit. I'm sure they were given to him. And my first thought was, Rooney needs some new shoes. But for me, it's become emblematic of how on the cusp or on the edge these families are. Was Rooney starving? No, thanks to Umoja. But all it takes is one disaster, one flood, one crumbling house, one sickness, one pandemic.
One pandemic,
exactly, yeah. And this would be a family in peril. It would be catastrophic. So, yeah, Rooney's shoes come to me, and I'm just grateful for Umoja and what they do for the families there.
I came back inspired. I felt like I was privileged to get to go and take a look at the project, meet the people involved, but they taught me so much. I came back with, inspired by their determination, their, again, perseverance. Despite incredible odds, they keep moving forward, and it helps me put in perspective my own world, my own small world, when I'm facing difficulties and challenges, that faith and humility can really guide you in that.
Beautiful.
And I came back thinking, I am so privileged, and I worry about things that should not be worries, because if I were in Kenya, it would not. If I were Kenyan, it would not be a concern. The concerns are so much more real there. I came back feeling like I have much more to give, much more to do.
Tell us what you've done.
Well, when I came back to the United States, I was asked to join the Umoja board, and I did, and I'm very glad I did. It's a group I feel strong about, that they are doing good work, that they have great people on the board, and they're going in a great direction, and I'm very proud to be a part of that board.
Beautiful. And Marcia, you're also involved.
I'm on the development committee, and I have enjoyed that as well, as a way to learn more about the program and get better acquainted with people from the community who are also involved with the program, not just those of us at TAB.
Right. Tell us about the importance of Umoja being interfaith.
Yeah, that was important to me, and was a factor in wanting to go on the trip to learn more about the organization and the project, just because that's important to my own faith, that we do things collectively with other faith groups, what we can do together rather than what we can do in our own faith community.
I agree. It's one of the strengths of the program.
Right.
Yeah. Marcia, who's up next?
Okay, Denise Soltis is serving in her 4th year as the Executive Director of the Umoja Partnership. And in the past 4 years, Umoja has added 2 new primary schools, expanded secondary and post-secondary student scholarships, and added a boys empowerment program. Denise was our wonderful group leader during our Tabernacle mission trip. Let's listen as Denise shares Umoja's work during the past year.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to speak to you at this year's virtual Amazing Lunch. Before I get started, I just want to say thank you so much to Tabernacle Presbyterian Church. You are an important partner for us. Your support through missions, through the Amazing Lunch, through individual donors, and through your volunteers that help us with some of our programming are just invaluable to us. It's because of your support that we can provide our services, our food security, school lunch program, our Get Up and Bed Up programs, and our scholarship support. So thank you, Tabernacle. Last year, when we taped our first ever virtual Amazing Lunch, I shared with you that Kenya had just shut down. After the first COVID case, they shut down immediately on March 16th, and they stayed shut down. I expressed my concern about the dire circumstances in Kenya and the need of our children for food security, and I just didn't know how our kids were going to survive. Tabernacle came through for us, along with some of our other partners and individual donors, that allowed us to provide emergency food support for our children. Over 2020, we had 5 full family food distributions, and then we had an additional 7 child-headed household food distributions. We had a 75% increase in our food security budget last year, and all of those items that we purchased with those funds went to our families and our children in Kenya. Keep in mind, our families in Kenya don't have savings. There is no safety net system in Kenya to help support them. There's no access to technology that allows them to work from home or learn from home. 2020 and the COVID pandemic was really tough on everyone around the world, but our beneficiaries were particularly hard hit. After being shut down for 9 months, school has reopened on January 4th, and there has been a slight increase in COVID cases, but the plan right now is to sort of squeeze the time missed into the next 2 years. So instead of having 3 terms each year, we're going to be having 4 terms each year. So that has some repercussions for us. Food security, school lunch program, for example, instead of having just support 3 terms, there's 4 terms. So we'll have an increase of about a third in our food security budget. In addition to our food security budget, we will have 3 years of high school tuition due in the next 2 years. So that's a little bit of a challenge for us as we continue to move forward. As for now, the Kenyans are thrilled. They're full of hope because they're allowed to go back to work. They're allowed to go back to school and learn. You know, you heard earlier from Shauna Hubbard, who talked about where we were, where we've come from, and where we're headed in our plans for the future. And I was reminded of a story that Dave tells about his visit to Kenya, where we visited Rooney in his home and he noticed his shoes. And for me, his story represents all the need that is there in Kenya. We've had over 100 schools who have requested to be partners. We're getting more all the time. As we returned to school in January, schools reported a 30% increase in needy children that need help from Umoja. So keep in mind that any donation that you decide to make to Umoja Partnership will be put to good use. For today, I ask you, as always, to keep our Kenyan brothers and sisters in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you for allowing me time to talk to you today, and hope you enjoy the rest of the program.
So why is it important for us to be supporting Umoja, either personally or as a congregation?
In my opinion, I think that Emoji has done a wonderful job of achieving what its mission is, and I want to see that continue, and I think that they have the pieces in place to have that continue. I also feel like so little goes so far in Kenya. So our donations do so much there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's such an efficiently run program, and the people on the ground are doing such a fantastic job, and such a little amount makes such a huge difference in their lives. It's very effective, and it works.
And the teamwork is so great of what's happening in the U.S. and what's happening in Kenya.
Well, thanks both of you, Joyce, Marcia, for being here and for being great travel companions. It was really a joy to get to meet you and continue our conversation and friendship. So thank you very much.
Happy to be here.
Thank you both. So next up is Pastor John Gable. He's going to tell us how you could become involved with the Umoja Partnership.
Welcome, friends, and thank you for joining us for this virtual Amaizing lunch. It's wonderful to be able to hear these stories, to see pictures again, to hear reports about the good work of the Umoja Project. I think my only regret is that we're not doing it in person. sharing good maize and beans and good table fellowship. I, as some of you will remember, had the opportunity to visit Kenya and the Umoja project in January of 2012, nearly a decade ago. But still, it is very easy for me to call up the faces, the voices, the sounds of those children, the smells of the noontime meal cooking at each one of the schoolyards, the joy and the laughter of these children. Isn't it a delight to see these pictures, to see how happy, joyful they are, those smiling faces? But then it's also very easy for me to call up the desperate conditions of the homes we visited, the threat and the vulnerability underlying every story we heard, the depth of faith we heard and saw everywhere we went. I can go back to Kenya very readily in my mind, and I find that I do so often. As I hear their stories, I can also hear their struggle. And that's why the Umoja Project is so dear to me and my heart and so many of us here at TAB. You know, even under the best of circumstances, and it's hard to even phrase it that way, but even under the best of circumstances, the threat to these vulnerable and orphaned children is very real. As we've been reminded, the meal we serve may very well be the only meal these children receive on any given day, and many of them take at least a portion of it home to eat later in the evening or to share with another family member at home. And now during this past year, the pandemic of COVID, even those desperate conditions have become even more so. Kenya has shut down again, schools have been closed, hope to reopen again in May, and so we'll see about that. But with schools closed, these same orphaned and vulnerable children are even more vulnerable, not just to disease and hunger, but now to the very real possibility of starvation over a prolonged period of time. That's unimaginable. Shauna did a wonderful job outlining Umoja's strategic plan for food security, and this is where we get to help. The need now is greater still, and the need for our help then is greater still. So let me remind you just of the basics. 14 cents feeds a child one meal for a day. $25 feeds a child a school lunch for an entire year. That's staggering, isn't it? $25. $2,579 provides maize and beans for one school for the entire year. And under current circumstances, $25 in some ways is feeding a family, not for a year, but at least for this time being. Now, I would remind you, all of the funds that we raised during the Amaizing Lunch from TAB are going directly to that food program. But Umoja supports these children in many other ways as well. $13,000 provides sponsorship for a primary school for an entire year. That would be school lunches, uniforms, the empowerment programs, and other offerings as well. $16,500 would support the extra fourth term that we will be offering this year and likely into the coming year. So as you can see, the need is real now, as is this opportunity that we're being given to help. So how do we do that? Well, you can send a check to TAB. Make it out to TAB, put Umoja in the memo line. You can go to tabpress.org, our website, go to the giving link. There's a drop down, press Umoja. The TAB gifts, again, go to the food aspects of this ministry, but there are opportunities available beyond that if you want to talk with Denise or Shauna or anyone from the team. You see, through Umoja, we are responding to the needs of our neighbors, our children in this case, in Kenya. Feeding our Umoja children lunch has changed their lives. It has increased attendance, it has increased their performance in school, it has increased their completion of primary school, it's increased their matriculation to secondary school. And in many ways, Umoja is seeing the whole community we work with changed one child at a time. I hope that you will join us in responding to this great need and this great opportunity. My suspicion is, even when you signed up to join us for this amazing lunch, you came with the intention of giving. So I want to thank you in advance, not only for sharing this time with us, but also for your generosity. God's blessings.
There is something today.